Welcome back to Mamarchy and happy official 2026.
This is gonna be a big year, Tanya. Big year for a lot of things.
It is. We made a lot of ground with only about half a year on Mamarchy. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, we're so excited. Thank you for spending the beginning of your year with us. We are a podcast where motherhood meets the mess of American politics. We're not going to pretend one is calm, and we hope to speak to people outside of those realms too. So, Sarah, holidays, are we over them? Are they complete?
Well, okay, first of all, we'll get into New Year's resolutions, but 2026 is a big year because we have our midterm elections. That's gonna be huge. For personally, like our kids are getting older. It feels like our kids are so little that like every month feels like a year. I don't know how you feel, Tanya, but like that's how I feel. So holiday overstimulation hangover is real, but I love the holidays, as everyone knows. So I'm feeling a little sad, a little depressed because my birthday also, when this episode drops, will have already happened as well. So I feel like all this stuff happened, and now it's like, oh, now we're in cold winter months of Colorado, and like there's not a lot. I mean, there's things to look forward to, but it's just like more of a grind.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like August through December is just kind of like all building up in anticipation. And then all of a sudden it's January. And I mean, we have the stock show in Colorado.
That's true.
If you are into the rodeo, we have about 21 days worth of it.
The national stock show from folks all across the country come to Colorado. It's really, really fun.
Yes, they do a parade of steers down the main street of downtown. They have a prize-winning steer in the lobby of our hotel called the Brown Palace.
Did not know that.
It's a big deal, guys. So, Sarah, you have the stock show to look forward to if that's something you want to get passionate about.
Yes, I do. Also, something to lighten the mood or you look forward to is you all have been watching us. Maybe some of you have been watching us on YouTube the last few weeks, and I think our backgrounds are incrementally getting better. I have my Mr. Potato Head and our Mamarchy mug and some artwork. So just get excited for better backgrounds in 2026.
It is beautiful. Mine is temporary as I am at my parents' house because this is where my child is on Fridays, but really looking forward to that too. And when this comes out, has Traders already come out? Traders might be coming out today, as in when this is dropping.
The 6th or the 8th, January 8th.
Oh, I don't know.
It
Traders.
it comes out, I believe, on the 8th, because if you follow us on our social media,
You're right.
there's
The
like
8th.
yeah, so once this drops, guys, 2 days, get ready. We will be watching Traders. We're really excited. Donna Kelsey had, like, a great promo for for the show. So we're ready. We're ready for it.
Oh, man. So we'll put all of our angst and sadness about the holiday season being over into Traders Passion.
Yes, very, very excited. Well, today's episode is a little bit layered because it is January 6th, and we are talking about what it meant then. So when we say that January 6th, we mean the insurrection and what happened in Washington, D.C. a few years ago. We are, of course, a parenting podcast, but we also talk a lot about politics. And so as we head into the midterms, a really important election year, we thought it was important to remind people what January 6th was, what it meant for the country, and just breaking it down. I think for some of the stuff, like we always talk about, it's a lot more complicated and there's like a lot more details than you would necessarily see on your social media. So we're breaking it down, the political gaslighting and all of the things. We're also going to talk a little bit about our New Year's resolutions and some things that we're leaving behind in 2025, because apparently we're supposed to believe in fresh starts while also remembering everything as parents, but actually we are excited for this year.
Perfect. So grab your champagne, your non-alcoholic canned cocktail, your sparkling soda, and let's get into it. So we have prepared, as Sarah said, our New Year's resolutions. We're going to say things that we are leaving behind in 2025. Also, I'm assuming that by this point, I have broken my New Year's resolution, which we'll get into. and then our New Year's resolutions. So, Sarah, what are you leaving behind?
Man, 2025 was a year. It was a year of starting. It was a year of ending. It was just a year. It wasn't a bad year, but there was like a lot of shit that happened. I think for me personally, I'm going to I'm going to try to leave behind some anxiety. We'll see how it goes. I think there was like so many things happening in 2025 that I'm inherently an anxious person. So it just exasperated it all. And I'm trying to be more intentional and put things in a bubble and blow them away when they don't matter as much or when they shouldn't matter as much. So I'm going to try to leave that behind.
That's good. I think that we can all try to do that a little bit.
Yeah, as Tanya's experienced lately, my
Ugh,
anxiety.
man, it happens. Those anxiety ebbs and flows.
This is why we make a good team.
Yeah. When one of us is up, the other one is down, and so it goes. I guess that I want to leave behind, and I think that I've started to do this more, is when people say something that, like, I fundamentally disagree with or they challenge me on something, to not argue back necessarily and turn it into something, but to not just be like, "Ah, yeah, like, maybe you're right." Like, I think that it's fine to say, "No, that's not the case," or "I do it this way because," and then to just, like, cut off the conversation. Like, I think that just not being as passive, I suppose, is what passivity? Is that even a word? I'm leaving behind being passive to an extent. We'll see.
I think that's a great one. I just thought of another thing, and as parents and as moms in particular, I think this is important. Like I tend to say yes to so many things in my personal life, in my work life. Like I'm not going to say yes as much. I'm leaving that behind. I do not want to be a yes person anymore. I want to be a yes person for myself, for my family, things that make me feel happy, but like, we do not need to say yes to everything, and that's okay. So I'm leaving that behind in 2025. I'm not going to say yes to everything in 2026. If I don't return a call or a text message, it is not because I don't like you. It's because I just simply do not have time to say yes to everything and everyone. No offense.
No offense, guys. That's actually one of my favorite Liz Lemon quotes is when she says, "Yes to love, yes to life, yes to staying in more." Because
Yes to staying in more. Love staying in.
yep, absolutely. Okay. Do you have a resolution?
I am not a big fan of resolutions, to be honest. I realize and I understand that some people really need that time frame to be like, "Okay, I'm gonna eat all of the shit until the end of the year, and then I'm gonna go to the gym." And I read something somewhere about, like, how gym memberships obviously, like, go through the roof in January, and then they just, like, decrease rapidly throughout the spring. So, I say all that because I'm not a big fan of resolutions. I'm actually more of a fan of things that we're leaving behind. I guess if I had to say something, I'm really gonna try I don't have anything. I'll be honest. I would just be making shit up. I don't have a New Year's resolution. Is that bad?
No, that's totally fine. Mine is just to stretch more. So,
Well, that's like, see, you're good.
because it's not gonna be that hard. I really didn't stretch that much this last year, and, like, stretching, now it feels really great it's coming to the point where our bodies just hurt.
You do yoga.
Mm, I dabble. I dabble in yoga.
Fun fact, our friend Clinton, he always gets shouts out on this podcast. We both did the core power yoga certification in 20 it was like 2014. It was like right after maybe the Udall campaign that you guys were on. Anyway, I love yoga. That's a New Year's resolution. I'll do more yoga.
There we go.
Do more stretching with you, Tanya.
Perfect. Just yours is more structured stretching. Mine is probably Peloton stretching, let's be honest.
That's something I just thought of another thing. I am committed to I've never and people will hate me for saying this, but I've never had like super bad breakouts on my skin. But now that I'm in my 30s and heading into my mid 30s, I'm going to try and I already like invested in the products, but I'm really going to like have a good skin routine. Like I'm really going to try to do that more.
I feel that. I go through ebbs and flows of being like, "Oh, just a moisturizer is fine," and then, realizing that I probably need a little bit more, but convince myself that, like, there's sometimes that, like, I do the bare minimum and I'm like, "Oh, like, when you were in college, when you were in your early 20s, like, you would have barely done this. You wouldn't have even taken out your contacts," and that's, like, me making myself feel better.
Make it make sense.
I know. Anyways, anything else on resolutions?
Yes, if you have resolutions, if you have things you're leaving behind and you want to talk about them, you just want to vent to someone, you want to tell someone, let us know. DM us on Instagram or send us an email. We'd love to hear some of your resolutions for 2026, and we can try to hold each other accountable to better skin routines and stretching.
We can call them out. If you need a reminder sometimes, we'll go ahead and
Oh, we should totally do that.
yeah, like Clinton, for example. If you make a resolution, we can remind you every few weeks. So just let us know if you need that reminder. And yeah, we're at Monarchy Podcast on Instagram.
So, politics has gotten so extreme, as we talk about often on this podcast. And we do want to talk about January 6th, what actually happened in plain terms, and remind everyone why this is important and that it didn't actually happen that long ago. So, Tanya, do you want to like just run through with our listeners like what is January 6th? Like and we apologize if we're being too naive and rudimentary about this, but I think it's important because the media has like forgotten about what happened sometimes it feels like.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that like the vast majority of our listeners probably know what we're talking about and feel the same way. That being said, like it is such a monumental event that it does deserve to go over again. Like, this isn't just something that we can say, "Oh, yeah, like, that happened." And I think that that is a problem. So, on January 6th, 2021, only 5 years ago, so think about what you were doing 5 years ago. I was in relatively the same spot. Well, no, I
Pre-kids, pre-kids,
pre-kids,
right? Yeah.
pre-kids, pre-kids, pre my husband now. A mob violently breached the US Capitol, and all the lawmakers were evacuated in panic. And so this is when the Senate and the House were in session. Was it both of them were in session? I think so, because Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi were both there, and they were there to certify the election results. And so prior to that, then President Donald Trump, now also President Donald Trump, had a rally nearby and told people, like, riled this crowd up, said that they were great, and essentially sent them off to march on the Capitol. So the lawmakers were evacuated in panic. I don't know
There's
if
some
you've
crazy videos and
yeah, I was gonna say you should
photos and yeah.
this wasn't just a calm, like, "Oh, like, everybody go outside." This was, like, people banging on the doors, breaking glass, and people needing to get out. Police officers were assaulted. There are officers who died. There are people who were injured and died, and the peaceful transfer of power was directly attacked. You can imagine that if this was something that happened in a school or at a shopping mall or something like that, that people would be calling it violence. They wouldn't say that it was tourists. They wouldn't say that it was just people being really excited and going there and showing their support for something. So, Sarah, what are some like key things that we should know and remember?
I think the biggest thing is that this was not a spontaneous thing that just happened. This was meticulously planned out for weeks after the election and when Joe Biden won. And there was like public posts all over social media calling for violence on, mainstream platforms, and law enforcement was warned of risk and how in advance. I think one of the biggest things to me, and Tanya, you just said it, is these were not just tourists. I mean, look at the photos. They had masks on and like body armor and like it was really, really terrifying, and people were directly attacked. They were going in saying, "We're going to kill Nancy Pelosi." So, that's just, like, one example, but, I think that's really important for people to remember that this wasn't just like some protesters doing something peacefully. It was definitely planned out, and violence was something that was at the core center of this whole thing, of the insurrection on January 6th. And whether you voted for Donald Trump or not, I would hope that you would call a spade a spade. And if you see photos and you see videos, it was really terrifying. And it it honestly was it we almost lost our democracy that day. Like, if they had gotten in and killed lawmakers, which could have very much happened, it would have been, I mean, it was already horrible, like, it would have been 100 times worse. So the other, I guess, one other thing that I thought was really interesting is it temporarily broke America's nuclear command safeguards. So during the evacuation that Tanya was just talking about, the vice president was separated from the official carrying of the nuclear football, which is a serious, serious national security risk. This is something that most people don't know about. I don't know if it was intentional or planned, but is wild to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do wanna clarify because I made it sound like nothing happened before Trump spoke. There was violence, there was a mob at the Capitol as Donald Trump was speaking. So people knew that this was going on. As this, you know, if you remember seeing the footage of the Trump family just kind of standing around laughing, like watching TV, as all of this was happening and people calling people on his own party who are so quick to pretend like everything was fine when they were terrified also that day and that evening, like they made sure that they certified the election because I think that at that moment, a lot of their genuinely patriotic selves came out, and it was more about the country than the man, Donald Trump, but they also had the safety of knowing that Joe Biden was the president-elect. And so I wonder what, you know, if something that drastic happened today, if we would even see that glimmer of humanity in those lawmakers who since have flipped and pretended that it's not a big deal, or if it would just continue on. And also, there's all the stuff of like the weirdness with some of the lawmakers, including Lauren Boebert from Colorado, giving prior to the insurrection some of the insurrectionists tours of the Capitol. Like, I like whether or not, I mean, conspiracy theories aside, they were excited to walk through there with Lauren Boebert, and I'm really sure that she had some fascinating conversations that probably were not making people calmer.
Yeah, I think bottom line, January 6th happened. January 6th was an insurrection. It was a threat to our democracy. It was terrifying. It was not okay. I don't see any way that you can gaslight your way out of this. Like, there was videos, there was photos, the GOP and a lot of these insurrectionists of Donald Trump, uh, claimed that, public safety police officers backed the blue, yet many police officers actually died either there and also after the fact by suicide linked to January 6th trauma. So, make that make sense. You can't. It's really, really awful and terrifying, and we just want people to remember that this happened, and it was incited by Donald Trump. A lot of the rioters thought that they were being basically told by Donald Trump to do that, and as a result, full circle, we've talked about pardons before, Donald Trump has pardoned more than 1,000 of these people. So, exactly what happened or what they thought would happen did happen, which is incredibly scary that there's people out there that broke many, many federal laws and were in prison and now are out of prison, because Donald Trump thought they were quote unquote patriots.
Yeah, which is so wild. I mean, these people were convicted of, like, assault. These are people who were assaulting police officers, and it's all been scrubbed, who are the heads of hate organizations that are just, like, should have been serving 20 plus years, are just now out, and it's actually, I think that it's at least 12 people who were pardoned have already faced new charges. So that's since January 2025. And it ranges from assault to child sex abuse. So these aren't people that got out and contributed to society.
These aren't good people. Yeah, these are not good people. These are not good people. Wow.
I hope that some people afterwards thought, oh my God, I was really caught up in that and I did a horrible thing, but not those 12 people, obviously.
Do you, Tanya, remember where you were when you found out that it all this was happening?
Yeah, vividly. I mean, it was COVID, so I was in my apartment, and actually a friend from the Hillary campaign had given me a call, and we had been talking for a few minutes, and he was at the Capitol, but not in the building. But he said, I have to go, like something weird is happening. And I was like, okay, call me back. And so then, like moments later, I saw on the news, the television was on what was going on. And it was kind of this thing where, like, I didn't really process what was happening because was such a wild image that I was like, oh, like there's a protest at the Capitol because it was zoomed out and that's just kind of what it looked like. And then, like, you start seeing people creep up the stairs and get closer and closer and you're like, this isn't okay, like something is really wrong. And then we started, I think, to kind of realize that what was happening. What about you?
I'll be honest, I don't remember it as vividly as you. I can imagine I was probably, gosh, I was definitely at work. I was working in Denver at the time, downtown, and I I remember also being like, "What's going on?" Like, I kept seeing things on my phone, but it wasn't until, like, the next day or when I came home from work and I was like, "Wow, this is what like, this just happened." So, definitely not as vivid, but I do remember in the days following just being, like, attached to my phone and following the news and being like, "What?" And, like, videos kept coming up and audio, and I remember there was a photo of Jason Crow, who is a congressman from Colorado, like, crouched, like, protecting like, with his hand over, like, a few other members. There was a photo oh gosh, I can't remember, it was a US senator, a Republican, literally, like, running out of the building.
The video of Josh Hawley running.
Yes. It was also
Who
the same day that Josh Hawley, like, put his fist up in the air to the insurrectionists, so,
Yeah, and then he
yeah,
just, like,
make that fucking make
carried
sense.
away. Oh
Yeah,
gosh,
he's
what a
yes,
gross person.
that was it. So, I remember in, like, the days following, like, the stuff coming out, and it was like, "What?" And then you had, like, some Republicans saying, like, "This is awful," like, Mitt Romney was like, this was not okay, this is a threat to our democracy," and then you had others that were, like, clearly scared, and there was photos of them running, but then they were like, "We're with Donald Trump," like, "Stop the steal." So, yeah, those are my initial memories.
Yeah, and for those that don't know or haven't heard, like, the personal stories from people that were there. So one, Sarah mentioned Congressman Crow, who he's a veteran. He served many times overseas and he equated it to a war zone. And so he just kind of went into the mode of protecting civilians essentially. I've spoken to so many staffers who have said that they have just barricaded themselves in offices and turned off the lights, hid under desks, just like heard people passing by. Um, just, I mean, it's like what we teach our kids to do with school shootings, unfortunately. And then when people got back to their offices, it was just property destroyed, everything just absolutely torn apart. They're like, it's so sad, and there are so many people there. Like Sarah said, there are officers who committed suicide after this because it was so horrifying, and they faced such vitriol and violence on that day, and, like, they weren't getting the support that they needed or the backing that they needed. The people that were saying, "Back the blue," were not giving them anything.
They were literally attacking them. Like, you say "back the blue" on one hand, and then you're, like, trying to kill them to get inside to kill Nancy Pelosi, like, nice. Just horrific. I'm curious, Tanya, how obviously, this happened before we both were married, before we had kids, like, we I don't know what you were doing. Were you at your current job at the time? Um, so you were still like, you were working in political consulting. I was taking a little break from that, but, like, do you think if you had had kids at the time that it would have altered your feeling about, like, what kind of country your kids would inherit?
I think so, and it's so hard, right? Because there was so much happening at that time, like, it's COVID, we are separated from our loved ones, we're in this isolation, all of a sudden, this historic, horrible incident is happening, um, and, like, I got to focus on me. And, like, checking in to make sure that, like, the people that I knew were okay, but, like, I didn't have to explain this to anybody. This isn't something where, like, I had something to take care of that really needed my attention, and so I think that it yeah, for sure would have altered the way that I looked at it and probably made me 10 times angrier than I was because, like, how dare somebody try to do that to the future of our kids?
It's kind of how I feel about school shootings. Like, I always whenever a school shooting happened, a mass shooting, but a school shooting too in particular, before I had kids, it was deeply disturbing and horrific. And I would get so angry every time and upset. But after having kids, it was just like another level of anger and sadness, on top of, like, trying to understand and make sense of, like, what was happening. So, I just think having kids definitely, like, heightens everything, heightens your emotions in your everyday, but also when it comes to politics, these things like, I at least constantly think about, like, the world that my kids are going to be in. Like, when it comes to social media, when it comes to school shootings, when it comes to cyberbullying online, like, all of those different things that I didn't have to deal with. And now they have to deal with potentially our democracy being overthrown. Like, that's really scary.
Yeah, I think and I wanna know your thoughts on this too all the time about, like, how I will tell my kids about the moments of history that we lived through. So, like, how I will talk to them about September 11th, how I'll talk to them about Columbine or, Trump's election and this. And this is, I think, what makes it so scary with what's happening across the country with school boards being taken over and teachers being pushed out and, like, books being banned is because history is being rewritten at like, in the time that it's happening, and it's not even something where we can look back and think like, "Oh, we're trying to, like, gloss over this horrible thing that happened 60, 70, 300 years ago." It's like, this was 5 years ago, and we're already trying to make it disappear or just turn it into something we're not. So, I'm not sure, like, what do you think? Do you think that, like, schools, I guess, have a responsibility then to teach the kids about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we should have a whole episode about school funding and school boards and school choice and all of those things, public ed, all of it. We should talk about all of it. But yes, I mean, this is history. Like, this is history. This is what happened. These are facts. Like, we should be teaching our kids the facts. I think, unfortunately, we are now in a time in our lives where facts are not always facts to people. So that's scary. School board races have become incredibly polarized with Moms for Liberty running for those of you who don't know, Moms for Liberty, it's like an organization, and a lot of very far right extremist kind of MAGA type women who run for school board, and they want to ban books. They are incredibly hateful about some certain kids, and it's really terrifying because outside of, like, public education and history and all of those things, like, there is this added layer that our school boards elections are now political. And so you're bringing that layer of politics into your school when really it should just your kids should just be learning history and facts. So, yeah, I lots of thoughts on it, but our kids are not there. Like Teddy has 2 years, a year and a half until he starts kindergarten, and then I know I'll have a lot more opinions about this.
I think about that all the time of, like, how am I gonna react? And, like, I hope it's okay because I don't even know. If I see, like, even my kid cry because she, like, fell down or something and your heart just hurts, like, if somebody either does something to her or if somebody is trying to teach her something absurd, like, I can't imagine my reaction, and I'll grow into it, like, I don't know.
Or you'll run for school board, Tanya,
Oh
and
my
you'll
god.
you'll be part of the change.
I'll get
Um
somebody to run for school board. Yes.
Yeah, it's really wild. The other thing I wanted to get into is, like, how or when did you realize and your reactions to how deeply extremist organizing and I know both of us have come from a world of organizing back in the day, but, like, uh, how did we get here? I mean, people organized for January 6th online. This is how they organized people and told people what to do and where to go.
That part was really shocking, and the fact that it is surprising, right? Because it was on channels and mediums that I've never heard of, and so it wasn't even like, "Oh, people were just ignoring this." It was on, like, 4chan, and I had no idea what 4chan was.
Or 8chan yeah, I don't know.
Um, there was
4chan,
oh my god.
8chan, who knows? Reddit, people were organizing on
Yeah,
Reddit.
maybe it's not
Um,
4chan,
I
whatever.
no, I think you're
That's
right. You're right.
There was also one oh my god, what was it? There was something that, um, alumni from DU, University of Denver, where I graduated from, had started it, and I was, like, horrified that I wasn't close with these people at all in school, they were a couple years below me, but I was like, "Ugh," like, "Oh, you had such a bad impact on the world." And so just knowing that, like I think that as Dems, especially since the Obama campaign, we really pride ourselves on organization and thinking that like we have the upper hand when it comes to voter registration, get out the vote, um, you know, going to places that we think matters to have these rallies. But like, I think that that was a very rude awakening and turning point to say like, this is we might be outmatched at this point because somehow this happened and we all were sleeping on it. And like if people can organize to make this kind of event to have that many people travel to Washington DC, just like think of the logistics like with buses, planes, getting hotel rooms, making sure that people meet up at a certain time.
That's organizing 101.
Yeah, that is planning a huge event. And if they can do that, then, like, yeah, I mean, we've seen it. Donald Trump was reelected.
I know when people are like, "I can't believe Donald Trump was reelected." I'm like, "Really?" I mean, I don't know if I've said this on the pod. I always thought he was gonna get reelected. I was like,
I did too.
look at what happened in 2021, right? Like, you're totally right, and 2020 was a wave election year where, like, more people were sitting at home because of COVID than ever before. Like, I don't Joe Biden didn't actually have to campaign, he was in his basement on Zooms, like, he didn't people were gonna give him money no matter what, like, there were so many things, and also I think it started to the que so I'm circling back here, about extreme organizing online is this is when it really started, right? Was during COVID. I mean, we've been organizing online for a long time, but not in the same way. Like people were so desperate for communities. People were so desperate to just like have people and interact with people that I think this is how and why people were, like, dragged down into this weird rabbit hole, and then were somehow convinced to spend time and money to go to DC, and because so many other people were doing it. Like, if you're think about, like, it's groupthink. You're in a chat room with 500 people and they're all saying the same things, and you're like, "Yeah, everyone is terrible. We should do this. Like, it's our God-given right, blah, blah, blah. Women hate us." And it was mostly men, who there were women, but, like, mostly white men who participated. And so I think this all kind of like the root cause is like loneliness and people feeling lonely and wanting community and wanting something to grasp onto. And the online ecosystem just like breeds that just terrible like toxicity that we saw then result in 20 January 6, 2021. And then Trump got reelected and just a year ago. So, yeah, we have a lot of work to do this year, guys. It's 2026. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh my god. I just was so overwhelmed and also like, "Guys, we gotta do this." No, in a good way. I think in a good way that, like, we can't wait. This isn't something where the people are organizing right now. This isn't something that has gone away. People are still doing this. There are still these groups. Like, I know that, we all laugh about the size of Trump's rallies when nobody shows up, but like, does that matter? Not really.
No, because they're online.
Yeah, because they're online. And I mean, look at the number of like celebrities that Dems have in the huge rallies that we have during these campaigns. Like, that it doesn't matter. We were crushed. Like, it doesn't matter.
I mean, we had Beyonce and Taylor Swift, and we still lost the popular vote. Like, I just don't think celebrities matter in the way that everyone thinks.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter that like the DNC, when we were doing the roll call vote, was really cool. Like, I enjoyed it.
So cool.
It was so cool. Georgia, who was
Turned
it?
down for
Turned
what?
out for, yeah. Amazing. Think about it all the time. He performed that at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade also this last year.
Oh, he did? God,
Yeah.
yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, and then people were like, "Oh, haha, the Republicans were so boring," and it's just like, "Okay, why does that matter?"
I also think, and not to give us more credit, but people are gravitating to like normal people and normal conversations and normal communities. Like it's not about the celebrity anymore. It's about like creating communities. Like Momarchy can be a community of moms and parents who want to see common sense leaders lead again, right? So like I I think that's the power of monarchy and one reason we wanted to start this podcast because we were feeling so disillusioned. Like there's elected officials that we feel like our Democrats are not getting it right either. So if they're not getting it right and they can't build community and get people to fucking vote, then like we sure can. Because that's how January 6th and the insurrection was organized. It was just normal people, like people that listen to Joe Rogan and, talk about his podcast in chat rooms who showed up. And so, I mean, I can only hope that all of you listeners out there will show up to vote in the midterms this November. We have primaries coming, but we have a lot of work to do. And just to put a pin in it, like January 6th happened. It could happen again. People are organizing. And just because you are not an elected official or executive director or whatever, and you might just feel like, well, I'm just a parent, I'm just a mom. You aren't just a mom. You have, like Shannon Watts said, you have the power to organize and to change. And if you get 5 of your friends to listen to the podcast and register to vote and go and vote, like that matters.
I think and that my dream is to beat Joe Rogan on the charts. Like, and I think that that would be so amazing, and that's not even a thing where I'm like, "Oh, Sarah and I are so witty, like, we deserve to have all this." It's kind of a thing where you're like, "No, I want Joe Rogan to know that there's so many people that think differently and are against that, that, like, we can just go and topple him when we want to."
I would love to go on he can interview us on his podcast and, like, we can agree to disagree, but it's also this, like, non-political ecosystem where, like, he doesn't even, like, talk about politics that much, but when he does, it's incredibly alarming.
He is so alarming.
So then he, like, has people listen to his podcast, and then all of a sudden, I have a friend from high school, and her now ex-husband was, like, listening to Joe Rogan, and he, like, went from voting for Bernie Sanders to voting for Donald Trump. And he said one of the reasons was because of Joe Rogan. I'm like, also, not to go down a rabbit hole, but, like, Kamala Harris should have fucking gone on Joe Rogan. Why did she not? I don't know. That's, like, another conversation for another day because she did go on Call Her Daddy, but, neither here or there.
There was, God, this was a couple years ago, I think, at this point, that my husband and I were in an Uber, and the Uber driver had on Joe Rogan, and, like, we made eye contact at the same time, and I was like, "Oh god," and he was like, "Don't say something, just don't say something, because if we're just on the ride home," and I was like, "Oh my god," like, there's nothing that I can say, really, but, like, in those I mean,
I've listened to it sometimes. I mean, it's fascinating. I have listened to some of his episodes when he has guests on. Like, I listened to the Elon Musk, not the, like, 4-hour version, but I listened to, like, 30 minutes of it, and Zuckerberg. And the way that they talk, I mean, again, flip side, malarkey is like, we wanna be able to explain things in ways that people understand. We're not trying to be policy wonks. We're not trying to tell you how to think or what to do. Like, some of you probably did vote for Donald Trump, and, like, we wanna hear about that and talk about that and why, and I don't get it, but I would like to understand. So he does have that, like, plain speak. He just talks to people normally, but, like, anyway, we're giving him too much airtime on the pod. My point being that, like, this is how we organize online, is we build our own communities, and this is how we will win in 2026.
yes, amazing. So let's do it.
Done.
So we're gonna win in 2026, and that's the end of that section. So there's no anyways, we're gonna go into our DGAF mom moment, um, to wrap up this episode. So new year, same chaos, rapid fire questions. We've got some on here. Sarah, what is one thing you will absolutely not debate in 2026?
And this is always my one thing I'll never debate. Like, when someone says that, like, women shouldn't have the right to an abortion, not I'm going there. It's the first episode of 2026. I am fucking going there. It is not up for debate. You don't get to decide what I do with my body. Done.
Done.
What about you?
I mean, now that you said that, probably that. But I I think that also, like, blaming Dems for everything, not that I ever really debate people on that much, nor do I really interact with a whole bunch of people who blame exclusively Dems, but, like, come on, guys, you've got control over everything. I don't think this is on us.
Agreed. What's one boundary you're holding, Tanya, even if it pisses people off?
I think trying to be at bedtime as much as possible with our daughter, and I know that that interferes with work happy hours and events and stuff like that, but it is important to me, and I know that I feel like it's important to our family, and so I wanna try that. What about you?
Yeah, I feel that. I think I said it earlier, like, just not saying yes to as many things, and I think that goes same thing when people are like it it happened during the holiday season when there was, like, work parties in Denver or, like, Christmas things, and I didn't go because I need to be hel like, I work full time. I don't see my kids 5 days out of the week, like, that time is so important to me, and even though we laugh about how stressful the bedtime routine is, like, that's the time I get with my kids sometimes. So, like, yeah, I totally agree, like, holding that it is important to have sometimes, like, your friend happy hours or your mom happy hours or whatever, and I do those some few and far between, but, like, it's very selective these days.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And kinda jumping around here. So, is it still self-care if I'm hiding in the bathroom just to be alone?
Yes. Don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's fine. It's cool to chill down there.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about New Year's resolutions. We know it's January 6th, but what if you've already broken your resolution? Do you restart? Do you pretend they were just like vibes. There are no rules. Like, what what do you do there?
I don't think that I've ever had, like, a very strong New Year's resolution that I've broken, but that being said, I have so I was gonna say for, like, Passover, if I accidentally eat bread, which I don't really keep Passover anymore, but on Passover for Jews, you don't eat, leavened bread, and if I would break it, then I'd be like, "Oops," and start over and keep going. But in terms of New Year's stuff, I think you do whatever works for you. If you've been trying really hard and you, like, miss a day of working out, like, nobody cares, and just keep doing it.
Just start over.
Yeah, start over.
It's kind of how I feel about postpartum. Like, every day is a journey, and you might be like, okay, I'm gonna like do this, this, and this. I'm gonna fold my laundry. I'm gonna, catch up on a TV show. And then you just end up not able to do those things because you're recovering. And you just start over. You like try to eat healthy the next day. This is why I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions because I truly believe you can start a goal and end a goal at any point of the year. And to say like you have to start it on January 1st feels odd to me. Like I just don't set a goal starting February 1st. I don't care. Again, don't give a fuck, just do what's best for you.
I'm so motivated by things on Peloton that are like, "Oh, you're like 3rd week in a row, way to go." And so when I break those, I that's when I feel like I have let myself down, I've let the Peloton team down, and I just, like, stop doing it, and that is not the correct way. Like, I should just get over it and get back on the bike the next day, but it's something where then I'll go 3 months without doing anything, and then I'll go for, like, 30 days straight again and miss it and think like, "Oh god, it's not worth it now that I broke this streak." So that's probably a more apt thing than Passover. What age do we stop lying about loving New Year's Eve?
I oh my god. I stopped in college. In high school, probably. It's so overrated. I know this podcast drops on January 6th, obviously, so New Year's has already happened. It's overrated. I don't think I have stayed up until past midnight in, like, forever. I value my sleep. I don't know. With kids too, it's just, like, even before kids, but definitely with kids, it's like that's how I feel, like, I would rather just do fondue with my family, watch a movie, and go to bed by 10. What about you, Tanya?
I agree 100%. There was a couple years ago, my friend Emily and Shelby had their wedding on New Year's Eve, and it was perfect because it is a plan. You don't have to go anywhere. It was in the same hotel that we were staying at. It was food and drink, and then at midnight, we just went upstairs and went to bed. And like, I really appreciate and encourage New Year's Eve's wedding now. And if it's not at a wedding, I'm probably going to be at home and we'll wait until midnight Eastern time, aka 10 Mountain time, and then we'll go to bed.
Well, I hope you all had a wonderful New Year's Eve, and, if you just stayed home in your pajamas and went to bed at 10, like, yep, right there with you. No judgment. It's a great weird way to ring in 2026. You wake up on January 1st feeling refreshed, ready to go. Start your Peloton whatever streak week.
Absolutely. So, if you're listening to this and your only real resolution is survival and parenthood and politics and life in general at your job, congratulations. And if you're still standing after the holidays, welcome to quarter 1, baby. We we got this. It's 2026. We've got what, 11 months, 10 months until November.
Yeah, we're excited, and we're also really excited to welcome a bunch of exciting new guests to the show over the next few months. It's gonna be wild and exciting and fun, and, if folks have topics or guests that you want us to talk to reach out to, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. We're momarchypodcast at gmail.com or just our Instagram at momarchypodcast.
That puts a wrap on our first episode of 2026. Make sure you're registered to vote if you're not already. Howthefuckdoivote.com. We will be reminding everyone probably every week for the next 11 months or 10 months here. Also, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's so helpful. It will take 2 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. It helps more people find the show. Please, please do this. We wanna bring more Make It Make Sense energy into 2026. We wanna keep bringing you amazing episodes. So, thank you for supporting us. We're excited for this next year, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.